Happy Thursday, everyone. It's great to see you all and to see some familiar faces and some new ones. And we're drinking some fantastic Sauvignon Blanc tonight. So welcome. It's wonderful to have everybody with us. I was super excited yesterday to get my copy of the Wine Spectator Insider and see the wine that we're having tonight, the Rutherford Sauvignon Blanc, getting a 93 score. So we have a little bit of that left. So if you love it, get it while you can from our fantastic new vineyard. It is a beautiful day in Napa Valley. I hope you got a chance to see the live webcam from the ranch, because it is such a special day that we've had all day long here in Napa Valley. It's just been fantastic. Today I have with me Michael Scholes, our VP of Viticulture and Winemaking, right out there at the ranch. Winemaker Brooke Shank out in the cellar, and the amazing chef Vincent Sanchez in the winery kitchen. So exciting to have everyone here with us today. And of course, Eric and the entire direct marketing team on the back end making the magic happen from the video perspective. So thanks everyone for joining us. And I'm going to pop over to Michael first just to talk about this fantastic new vineyard. We bought this Rutherford vineyard last year. It's the first year that we've had these grapes. As you know, we're an estate winery, so everything we make is 100% estate grown, produced, and bottled. And we love Napa Valley, and we love Napa Valley for growing Sauvignon Blanc. We have almost 10% of the acreage in Napa Valley for Sauvignon Blanc. And Michael Scholes, you set the style in Napa Valley for Sauvignon Blanc back in the 90s. And you're making it better every year. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about this new vineyard that's so exciting for us in Rutherford?
Thanks, Emma. Yeah, listen, this new vineyard is really kind of exciting, and the whole process of looking at the vineyard and making the decision to take this vineyard on was a super interesting process, and we've been rewarded with some great wines from that. So the 2023 was the first harvest, so we've had a little opportunity to learn a bit about it in that time, and some more in 2024, which we've just finished the harvest of course, quite recently. But the vineyard is really an interesting place, and it's on this very interesting soil. It's a loam soil that's got a little heavier, not heavy, but a little bit of clay content out, and that allows those vines to sort of grow to be quite healthy, strong vines. And for Sauvignon Blanc, that's a very good thing. I mean, we always want vines to be healthy, but they've got good presence, and they're creating a volume of grapes that have great flavor profile, flavor structure. But along with that sort of soil profile, we have a second profile, another lens of soil that is more of a sandy loam. So we have two different types on that location there in Rutherford. And also, you know, it's different than Dollarhide. The Dollarhides are fabulous. We've been doing this for a long time. We love Dollarhide. It's fantastic. But it's great to have some variation and what have you to complement what we do. And this new vineyard in Rutherford really does complement our Sauvignon Blanc. And it creates a very interesting wine in the style that we do, but it has a very powerful sort of lime quality about it, exotic quality about it. It's quite interesting how it is like that. And then that complements very much with the style we do, which is a sort of green light grapefruit style out of the Dollarhide Ranch. So they're really, really interesting, but it is different, and the wines are different. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, this Rutherford Estate vineyard for this Sauvignon Blanc is really an exciting opportunity for us right now, and it's kind of fun. It's really fun.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. I've really been enjoying it, and it is the official wine of Hope in the Water, the new PBS series, and Fed by Blue. If you haven't had a chance to see that, definitely watch it. You can watch it on demand on PBS, and there'll be a new series and a cookbook from Andrew Zimmer coming out next year. But know that that this wine also goes to support that organization. So, you know, we finished harvest last week. It's like all the work's done, right? Not really. So Michael, tell us what's happening in the vineyard now, now that we've finished harvest, finished picking everything.
Well, look, our farming season sort of doesn't ever really stop. It continues as we go, but in different phases. So while we finished the harvest phase just a week ago, we're into the next phase, anticipating a wet winter and so forth, which is typically what we're going to see in this Mediterranean sort of climate. And with that, we need to plan for that rain and so forth. So we need to look at erosion, potential for erosion, therefore control that. So in an efforts to do that, we're laying wattles and spreading straw to slow down the travel of water down hills and so forth, keep soils out of rivers and what have you. In efforts to maintain a healthy vineyard, we're cultivating our vineyards, we're applying compost to our vineyards, and we're seeding our vineyards with cereal and legume seeds. And the concept there is not to reap a crop per se, but to actually cut that back in the soil to enhance organic matter and give back to the vineyards that give so much to us. So we have a lot of things going on there. In our sustainable approach to farming. Well, shortly, we will have sheep coming along and onto the vineyard. We've been doing that for some years yet now, and it's really fun to bring the sheep on. They're really cool. So they really tidy the vineyard up. They get it into a fabulous sort of position for the new year next year, and they provide a little nourishment to the soil themselves, and really are just all around a great sustainable approach towards our farming and diversify our farming, and which is a good thing for the enhancement of the biodiversity. So a lot of things going on out here, Emma.
Yeah, well, I mean, I love when the sheep come out. I mean, I know we have about 1,000 sheep out there, and you can really hear them out in the peace and quiet of our own little Dollarhide Valley that we have. And it's just so wonderful as they rapidly compost the cover crops and also clean everything up and save fuel on tractor passes, because we can't get all of the vineyards with the electric tractors, and so they're definitely helping our carbon footprint too. So it's pretty exciting. So Brooke, do you want to tell us a little bit about how we make this wine? We pop into the cellar with you.
Sure. So we start with approaching the wine the same that we approach all of our Sauvignon Blanc and white wines. We're going to pick at night when it's nice and cold, as it gets in Napa Valley. We start usually about 2 a.m. and then the grapes arrive at the winery cold. They're destemmed, and those stems get composted back out into the vineyard. Then all the juice goes through our presses, which separates the skins and seeds from the juice. Juice goes to the tanks, stainless steel tanks. We will settle them nice and cold just to get that pulp to settle down. We'll rack the clean juice off and get it into ferment. The ferment's nice and slow. Of course, we're trying to preserve all of the aromatics and those bright flavors that you're seeing in this wine, and that we spent all year growing. We want to enhance those. So with this particular Rutherford Sauvignon Blanc, we actually fermented a good portion of it, 24% in concrete, which is like the tank behind me. We did a nice cold fermentation on that, and nice and slow. We actually aged in those tanks for 5 months as well. And that is amazing because we can get these flavors from the Rutherford, the Sauvignon Blanc, and then we add a little bit of minerality into it, texture, aroma, some sea spray almost on it. So that gives it a nice complement. We also took about 12% and put it into seasoned French oak barrels. So they weren't brand new. They actually had been used 2 years, 2 times, but it still gives it a little bit of a volume and a little different texture than if we just fermented it in stainless. The majority, however, is fermented in stainless, and that just gives a real clean fruit expression of this magnificent Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah, I really love this Sauvignon Blanc. It's been super exciting. And you have so many different parcels of Sauvignon Blanc at Dollarhide, but also at the new Rutherford property. And each of those are bringing, different flavors. And I know you and Michael are working really hard to kind of enhance those and show the difference of the terroir. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, at Dollarhide, we have 44 different blocks of Sauvignon Blanc. So each one of them unique, different, they could be different soil types or different areas of the vineyard planted. They have different characteristics. We separate those when they come in and ferment them separately. We also have now 16 different lots at that Rutherford vineyard. So that's incredible as well. Each of those have different characteristics. So what I noticed, I mean, and we're very familiar with our Dollarhide Sauvignon Blanc and what those flavors and aromas are bringing, that grapefruit, little green lime, and that vibrance we get at Dollarhide. At Rutherford, immediately what came back to me is a little bit of this gooseberry that I saw when I worked in New Zealand. This pungent, really intense gooseberry, passion fruit flavor and aroma that was very apparent in the first year, 2023, of those ferments, and then again in 2024.
Yeah, I'm really excited. This wine's really fun. And we grow, we have 3 single vineyard Sauvignon Blancs. Do you want to talk about just the differences between those quickly?
Yeah. So, I mean, we have our Dollarhide Sauvignon Blanc that is majority stainless steel, but then we have some new toasted French oak threaded into there. So you get this toasty, kind of creamy aromatics and flavor that's blended into that. And we have a cold concrete Sauvignon Blanc that's fermented 100% in these concrete tanks. And we put a little Semillon in it as well. So we really get that sea spray and minerality. And then with this wine, we were able to kind of incorporate a different style. It was very fun for Michael and I and Asael to get these different blocks in for the very first time and try different vessels and see how they express in the different vessels, and then put the style together as a blend. And it was a really fun process, and we're excited about it. Did I lose Emma? Possibly Emma might be frozen. I'm not sure. Can you guys hear me? Yes. Okay. Got it. Okay. Just making sure. So
Yeah,
maybe,
we can hear you.
okay. Got it. So
Indeed.
Michael, do you want to talk about a little bit of how we kind of came up with like the style of it and the experimentation that we did in order to create this wine?
Well, Brooke, I think you've already explained that pretty well with the different wines that Sauvignon Blancs that we make. You know, we've got a Dollarhide, as you mentioned, has a little bit of oak. So we've learned about that and understand that over quite a lot of years of making that wine. And then we've got the concrete, which is a little more recent, but it's been an education for us as well. And you did a great job describing how that works with that textural approach and that minerality, which is cool. We also, of course, don't forget we make our Vertu, which is not exactly a Sauvignon Blanc, but a sort of a Bordeaux style blend. But it leans on Semillon and Sauvignon Blanc, and that has different sort of barrel ages and what have you. So just understanding this over time lent us to be able to think about the Rutherford Sauvignon Blanc, what we were seeing in the fermentations, what sort of flavor profile we're seeing, and what of those different dynamics could lend themselves to that wine. And as we went through, as you know, Brooke, it was a really cool opportunity to work on that wine and draw those experiences into that blend, which is kind of cool. And the results have been fabulous. We've really Rutherford Sauvignon Blanc is really a fun wine. Mm-hmm.
Well,
sorry, you're back, Emma.
I was I crashed there. I was particularly excited by the influence also on the Napa Estate Sauvignon Blanc from the Rutherford Vineyard, and so I'm just curious for both of your input on that.
I mean, so 16. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Michael.
You're good. Look, I'm off. You go, Brooke.
I was just going to say we have 16 different blocks. And this is a small little blend that we were able to do for this wine, only about 400 cases. That leaves the rest of it to be able to blend into the Napa Valley Estate Sauvignon Blanc. And that is just going to enhance that blend, bringing in some passion fruit and some gooseberry and make it more exciting than it already is.
Yeah, I really love it. Michael?
Yeah, no, I think Brooks summed all that up exceptionally well. So it is a very exciting vineyard and is really contributing exceptionally well to our Estate Sauvignon Blanc and bringing it some real richness. So that's fabulous.
Well, let's pop over to the kitchen to Chef Vincent Sanchez, who brings so much to the winery. He's been really creating some fantastic dishes. We've had an amazing summer of charity events with some super special meals and pairings with some vintage wines, and really exciting. And Chef Vincent has, you know, that Michelin star background, to working with his family's chocolate company, to working at the winery and pairing just the freshest ingredients from our gardens. And he's always finding something new and exciting. But I love it when you cook healthy things too. Like, we've got lots of healthy sides on the website that you've suggested for our holiday cooking. So tell us about the green beans. What are we doing here?
Yeah, well, welcome. First off, welcome, and thanks for visiting us here in our kitchen today. It's a perfect day to be doing this, and I think we really wanted to really speak to Thanksgiving. It's right around the corner. We wanted to give some tips and tricks on you know, how to make it a little bit easier for yourself. Thanksgiving should be about enjoying the holiday. So one of the things that we have is going to be, like Emma said, this is on the website, but we have these wonderful green beans. So what I wanted to do was show you a couple of tips and tricks on how we clean our beans. This is a question that I get often of, you know, do we nick off one side of the bean? Do we do both? I think in this application, I like to go ahead and nick off both sides of those beans. I do like to keep them whole. When you're serving family style, I think it's important to think of how people are going to be picking these up. If these are small and bite size, it'd be a little bit more cumbersome to pick those up. So we're going to go ahead and nick both those ends off and leave them a little bit long. We're going to go ahead and stop right there. But also, I wanted to go over how we clean our shallots. The recipe calls for shallots, or we have these beautiful cipollini onions right here.
Ooh.
This time of the year, I really like to use cipollini onions. But I wanted to go with the recipe. So we have some shallots, and we're going to show you a quick way to clean those and how we like to cut them. So I like to nick off both ends, and then I'll just run my knife underneath the skin. And the skin should, in theory, come right off. Sometimes they like to be a little pesky. You can soak them in water for about 5 minutes. That's a cool little trick that'll help hydrate the skins, make them a little bit easier to take off. One thing I do like to do, when we cut these, I like to cut them long ways. And what I tell our team, I don't know if anybody remembers this, but we call it hot dog instead of hamburger, which means we're going to go a long way. If this onion would work with me. Here we go. So what we like to do is go ahead and we'll cut this long ways. And so this is what I mean by long ways. We're going to cut down the center. We're going to go ahead and lay those out and get a nice julienne on them. So you want relatively thick strips because we're going to caramelize these. So we want to have them get a good amount of color before they go a little bit too far, right? So that's essentially what they're going to look like. We'll go ahead and set those aside. But we're going to start with a hot pan, which I have right here next to me. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of oil to our pan. Want to make sure that it's hot. This is going to be pretty hot. So one thing I would recommend is adding a little bit of your oil, moving it around. It should look almost like water flowing in a pan. That's how you know it's really hot. A little bit of smoke coming up from there. That's important. One thing that I'll like to do is I'll tip my pan forward so I don't drop oil or get it on my hand, and then just kind of move the rest of the pan over. I like to use a spoon to kind of move them around a little bit. The point of this is to get a little bit of color. One of the reasons I like getting a little bit of color is that bitterness and the char that's on these are really gonna go a long way in enhancing that wine pairing. Gives a little bit more nuanced flavors. I do blanch my beans ahead of time. What's really nice about these, if you can blanch these the day before Thanksgiving, what I'll do is blanch them in hot salted water, pull them out with a strainer, and then I'll go ahead and put them on a plastic tray directly in the fridge. What that does is it helps not waterlog the green beans. It's going to wash all of that wonderful flavor out of the green beans, and we don't want to do that because they're beautiful, fresh, they're wonderful boulet green beans. Next thing we're going to want to add is our cipollinis or our shallots. I'm going to use a little bit of both today. because I like both of these onions. They're two of my favorite onions. Nice sweet flavor. I like the sharpness of shallots as well. You can use whichever you like. It doesn't matter. You can use both. As we mix these around, we want to let them get a little bit more color. And again, here's another cool tip. We can go ahead and cook these onions ahead of time. A little bit of water, a little bit of salt. It's going to help draw out some of the moisture from those onions. And it'll help actually quicken the process. I know it seems counterintuitive to add water to caramelize, but it kind of gets the process going a little bit better. And you can see at this point, we're getting a little bit of char, which is really nice. At this point, we're going to want to go in with some garlic. I'm from Gilroy, so I like to use a lot of garlic. But we also like to say measure with your own heart, right? A little bit, if you like a little bit more salt, add a little bit more salt, a little bit more garlic, onions, whatever you'd prefer. The last ingredient we have here are some toasted almonds. Now we do toast these ahead because we like them to be nice and dried out and toasty. At the same time, I do add them at the end to get a little bit more color. Again, that's going to add a little bit more bitterness, a little bit more dimension, everything, you know, in moderation. So not too much bitterness. Go ahead and add some salt. Again, salt to your liking. We'll mix it around a little bit. Let it just finish cooking. Then the last thing we're going to do, once you get the color you're looking for, got a little bit of caramelization on the garlic. I like a little bit of that bite from fresh garlic personally, and so does my family. So we'll tend to leave it, you know, a little bit undercooked. But from here on out, I like to kind of crowd my beans to one side so we can get them in a nice and lined up. It's not the most important thing that your green beans are lined up.
But they sure
But
look pretty.
Yeah, they do, right? A little bit of caramelization. I'll always get the green beans in first when I do this personally. And that gives us the ability to go ahead and add these onions and almonds where we'd like. Now, remember, people eat with their eyes first. So making sure you have a little bit of everything everywhere is an important piece of the puzzle. And also, if you feel at the end you want to put more almonds, go for it. This is your recipe, and I really feel like you can kind of do whatever you'd like to make it your own. I think recipes are a great guide, but ultimately, you get to make that final decision as to what you like personally.
Chef, that looks just amazing. And I do want to remind everyone, please do go ahead and post your questions or comments in the chat. We're happy to answer them live or unmute you if you'd like to ask yourself. That looks just fantastic.
Right. And again, a little bit of almonds right on top, just a little bit extra.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the nice things about this, these dishes is, you know, it's October and we're all celebrating come over October this month to invite our friends and family over. And it's a great chance to experiment with some of the side dishes that you might be planning for the big day, and to be able to do so much of this in advance. Onions are in season right now. I've got so many onions. I've been caramelizing them and stocking them up in small containers in my freezer because they're just a great hit when you don't have time to do that caramelization and you just need a little boost in what you're cooking. Chef, one of the other recipes that you had that on the site for the holidays was the carrots and that potato dish that you do. I love that. You can do that well in advance. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. So the potato pave is a beautiful dish. It does take a little bit of time on the front end to get done, but the recipe is on the website. So what you're going to want to do is peel your potatoes, slice them very thin, and layer them. I like to layer them with a little bit of cream, some Parmesan, actually a lot of Parmesan, salt and pepper. We're going to go ahead and put a piece of parchment paper over that, weigh it down and bake it. It'll take about an hour and a half. We want to let that cool overnight. Then you can turn it out of that pan, cut them perfect little rectangle portions, and then deep fry them. This is something you can do ahead. You do it in the morning. You can rewarm them halfway through the day when you have dinner. And it's just one extra thing to make your Thanksgiving a little bit easier so you can have a little bit more fun.
Well, they are spectacular. I didn't realize there was deep frying. Perhaps I shouldn't have known that and just let you cook them for me. They're quite delicious. We're looking forward to that. So the other wine that we all love for Thanksgiving is the Rutherford Merlot and the Elu. Both of those wines go so well with so many different dishes, as well as the Vertu. And Michael, I know that Thanksgiving is your favorite holiday as an American now, but you're still an Australian at heart, but you love Thanksgiving. And I'd love you to talk about the Rutherford Vineyard, where this beautiful Rutherford Merlot comes from, right in front of the winery.
Yeah, thank you, Emma. That Rutherford's just a generally a great location. It's a great place, part of the world, and if you're a winemaker, it's a fabulous part of the world because the soils there are just quite remarkable and lend themselves exceptionally well to Cabernet, of course, but Merlot as well. The red varietals general, in fact, Sauvignon Blanc as well. It really is just a fabulous place. But in regards to Merlot, we've got some Merlot there on a few different locations. And in the front of the property, we have a little bit of sandy loam soil. On the back of the property, we have a little clay loam soil. And Merlot performs quite differently between the two, but performs quite well. So in the front, we get some great opulence out there. In the back, we get some great density and plumminess and what have you. And it really works well. That sort of growing situation also creates great structure and texture, and but also with this sort of nice dusty tannin, which is more like a cocoa sort of feel in the mouth, and it's really a lovely sort of approach and what have you. So the wines can be quite structured but quite gentle, quite elegant all at the same time. So really is a fabulous location for growing our Merlot, which is where we do it. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's delicious. Brooke, do you want to tell us a little bit about how you two are making this wine?
Sure. We're going to hand pick all of the reds and including the Merlot, and then bring it into the winery cold, same reasons as the white wines, to preserve those flavors. And then we actually will sort. We'll sort first, starting with clusters. We sort them by hand. Then everything, the stems get removed. We're going to compost those back into the vineyard, just like the Sauvignon Blanc. And then the grapes, the actual individual grapes, are going to be sorted by our optical sorter, which is using a robotic eye to select the perfect grapes. So anything underripe is going to be sorted out. Anything without perfect color, anything overripe is going to be sorted out. And then, of course, the stems or leaves or anything that comes through that isn't a grape is going to be sorted out as well. So that leaves us with a bin full of this perfect grapes and gives us the purity of the fruit that we've spent all year growing. And then we'll bring that fruit into the cellar, and we have a couple different options for fermenting. And with our Rutherford Merlot in particular, we actually put a significant amount into new French oak barrels where we're going to ferment it. So this is not an easy process. It starts with having to take apart the barrels, which you just slip those hoops up, pull the barrel head out. We're going to put 400 pounds of sorted grapes inside those barrels, and we'll put the barrel back together. But that barrel now is going to we need to extract out those skins and that wine. So we're going to put that barrel onto a rack that has wheels on it, and we're going to actually spin those barrels by hand. We do that every 3 hours in the heart of ferment. So this fermenting in these new French oak barrels creates a totally different wine than fermenting in tank and then aging in those barrels. And it's a different, you get this incredible barrel integration. It gives you a different mouthfeel, creates this plump but soft, dark wine, and does really well with Merlot. So 41% of this wine was fermented in those barrels with a lot of labor and a lot of love. We also put 16% of this wine into concrete tanks, similar to the tanks that were behind me right here. And so that brings a little minerality and a little texture into it. And the balance is fermented in stainless steel tanks. So that's giving you just a purity of the fruit and a purity of that expression that's coming in. So this wine is delicious. I think I get a lot of like black plum, raspberry, and plumpness, and also just like anise and some spices on there. So just a delicious wine, but a delicious Merlot.
And what are your favorite Thanksgiving pairings with it, Brooke?
I mean, the thing I like about Merlot is that it is very food friendly. So it's a little bit more versatile than, say, like a Pinot Noir or even a Cabernet Sauvignon. It's kind of in the middle there. You could pair it with turkey, and you could pair it with chicken, or you could go and pair it with red meat or salmon. So Merlot is so versatile, and it's kind of a crowd pleaser. If you have a group of people that's eating a lot of different foods, you could pick, if you want to pick a red wine that will probably go with most of the food, you could probably go with Merlot and it'd be good. So that's I just like the versatility of Merlot.
I do too. I think it's really important, like when dining out and you have a group that you're taking out to dinner, it's a great bottle of wine to order when everyone's chosen something different. It makes you feel like a hero and everybody's happy. Michael, what are you serving the Merlot with?
I mean, with different things. I mean, I'll do it with lamb with a plum sauce, duck with a plum sauce, that type of thing. I think that worked really, really well. But I agree with Brooke. It's quite a versatile wine, and it's just a really good wine.
Yeah, I feel like the Merlot and the Alou both have that great versatility. Well, let's see what Chef's got in the kitchen. I'm excited to get some tips to improve my turkey and to get a little practice in.
All right. So turkey, that's one of those things, especially during Thanksgiving, can be very divisive. Do we cook it whole? Do we break it apart? Do we brine it? Wet brine it? Dry brine it? What's the best? Well, I think to each person has their own opinion on what's best. For me personally, when I want to make it easier on myself, I'm going to go ahead and break that turkey up into pieces. My main reason for that is you're really going to be able to cook every single piece perfectly. The breast will be cooked perfectly. The thighs, the drums, everything's separate. They all have different cooking times. They all have different densities. So we're going to show you how we would do a turkey breast if we went ahead and took that off the carcass. Now, one of the things that I always like to make sure that I do, I brine my turkey. I really think it's the best way to ensure that it's going to be super moist on the inside, and it really widens that margin of error when you're cooking at home. So we're going to start by going over to our pot. We have a preheated pot. We're going to go ahead and throw some water into it. And this recipe, by the way, will be on the website very, very soon. After that, we're going to go ahead and throw in some aromatics, some thyme, bay, rosemary. We're going to add in some parsley. Then we're going to go in with some whole cloves of garlic, some black pepper.
That's our Gilroy boy.
Right? Lots of garlic. That's, but again, if you want to make this your own, you can always add a little bit less garlic. There's nothing wrong with that. Some salt. Our salt's always measured out and it's weighed versus the amount of water that we have. So we can make sure that we're not over salting anything. A little bit of chili flakes, because I like the flavor that the chili flakes give. It's not enough to make it spicy, but it gives it a little zing. And speaking of zing, we have a nice lemon. So I'll go ahead and I'll squeeze it in really, really well. And then I'll drop the whole lemon in there as well. One of the reasons I like to do that is you're going to get a lot of those essential oils in the lemon that are really going to make that brine a lot better. Last thing is we're going to add some honey. Now, the important thing about honey is, one, it's again going to give you a very unique flavor, but it's also going to help when browning your turkey a little bit. Helps you get a little bit more color. Now, one thing we're going to want to do with this is we're going to go ahead and want to have this come up to a boil, right? And not a rapid boil, more of a simmer, I should say. And once it comes up to a simmer, best case scenario is you're going to want to let this cool down naturally. You want to be completely cold before you put your turkey in. One tip that I like to do, I'll have my team go ahead and get the brine hot. Once that salt has all the way dissolved, we're going to go ahead and add the rest of that water in ice form. This is going to cool it down immediately. So if you're ever in a rush, you can kind of get it going. Best case scenario would be to leave it overnight in the fridge and then just to let it cool down from there. So once we have our brine made, I have some magic brine already ready to go right here. We want to make sure it's in a large enough container where when we put our turkey breast in, the displacement isn't going to come up over the top, right? It's the safest way to do it. I just happen to have a turkey right here to brine, and we're going to go ahead and drop them right in very carefully, very slowly, and then make sure that it's 100% submerged underwater. You can also put a piece of plastic underneath. Put a piece of plastic underneath or on top of the water just to make sure that it's fully submerged. And then we're going to want to go ahead and store it in our refrigerator overnight, 24-hour brine. So let's fast forward 24 hours. Just so happens I have a turkey that's beautiful and dried out, ready to go. Now, if you'll notice, I do have this on a cooling rack in a sheet tray rather. So what's very important about this is the turkey is going to have air flowing over the bottom and the top. It's going to help, evaporate some of that moisture off the turkey, and that's going to give you beautiful, beautiful skin. Now, with the magic of TV, I now have a beautifully roasted turkey breast. This came out of the oven maybe 10 minutes ago, so it's still nice and warm. And what we wanted to show after this is, how do we present this? What do we do after we have it cooked? What's the best way to slice it up and make it look really, really beautiful? So we're going to take it off the tray.
Now, Vincent, we would have normally let it rest for how long?
That's a very good question, Emma. So when we let turkey rest, as a general rule, we're going to want to let it rest. We are going to want to let it rest at least 30 minutes, preferably 45 minutes. It's still going to have a tremendous amount of heat already, still in the turkey. So don't worry about it getting cold. You can always pop it in a warm oven for a little bit, but I think there's no need to serve it, super, super hot. I think we like it when it's a little bit cooler. One of the main reasons we want to let it rest as well is as the meat cooks and it's hot, all the moisture is kind of going to the center of the piece of protein. So as it cools down, that moisture is able to redistribute into the entire turkey. That's going to give you juicy turkey all the way through. And let's see if we did it. Right. And you can hear.
Chef, what temperature are you cooking it to? The internal temperature of the turkey?
That's a good question. Because there's a lot of different, cook it to 165, cook it here, there. I take mine to 145 degrees. There's typically at least a 15-degree carryover. So it's still going to be cooked, at the very least about 163 degrees, which is plenty high for a safe turkey. And as you can see, this one was cooked to 145 degrees. And as you'll see, once we're finished getting some beautiful slices, we're cooked all the way through. I don't know if you can see this. Maybe we can get a
gorgeous
close up over here.
Gorgeous.
But this is really all the way cooked through. It's dripping with juice. And now we want to go ahead and platter this. I'm going to go ahead on my cutting board, fan them out, get my knife ready underneath. But one other thing I'm going to want to do, I like to put a little bit of gravy underneath my turkey. I like to put the gravy underneath. I like to put it on top. I like to put it on mashed potatoes. I'm one of those guys that'll put a yummy gravy all over everything. So we'll go ahead and put a little bit down on the plate. Kind of get it spread out.
And Chef, you cut that against the grain. Is that we were always supposed to cut against the grain?
Always against the grain. That's very good. And against the grain, because if you go with the grain, those protein threads are going to be very long and they're going to be very chewy, right? And it's just not, it's not preferable. So yeah, always against the grain. And one touch that we think is always very, very nice, and what we do at the winery for almost every event, is we have these beautiful bouquets. And it's always nice to add a pop of color, right? And the end result is just going to be absolutely beautiful. We'll show it to the side of the camera as well.
Oh, that's
nice,
gorgeous.
juicy turkey, beautiful bouquet. You know, give me that any day. That's a beautiful turkey.
It's going to be really pretty with those green beans too.
Oh, absolutely. Green beans, potato pave, and some koji carrots. Get out of town. That sounds delicious.
Oh, that's wonderful. So how are you kicking off your Thanksgiving Day menu?
Well, so we at our household, we do turkey a little bit different, or we do turkey day a little bit different. We cook about 3 turkeys, always 3 different ways. Usually one roasted in the oven, usually one smoked. Third one is always up for debate every year. I think this year I'm going to try to get them to fry it because I love fried turkey. But really, it's Thanksgiving is all about being with your family, being thankful for the things that you have, and being able to put food on the table. I think that's the biggest part of Thanksgiving. That's my favorite, is being able to be with my family. So, you know, I hope everybody else is too, and hopefully we have some good recipes and tips and tricks to make your Thanksgiving Day just a little bit better.
Well, Kim would like to know what time to show up at your place.
Oh, absolutely. We start eating around 3 o'clock. Come on over.
I do. I like to start eating early as well, because then you get a little
Absolutely.
walk in before dessert. You know, one of the other things that I was thinking about when you were putting that honey in is how versatile the Muscat Cannelli is as well, on Thanksgiving Day, not just with desserts, but also kind of when you're kicking off and everybody arrives.
Absolutely. We love serving our Muscat Cannelli. Typically, if we were going to have it, we do have this recipe online as well, but we'll put it on a piece of brioche toast that's been toasted with a little bit of brown butter, some Point Reyes Farmstead Cheese Company original blue on top, a little bit of honey, a little bit of candy cap mushroom that's been dried and powdered, a little bit of salt. That's the best appetizer you could ask for with a glass of Muscat Cannelli. It's perfect.
I'm ready. You know, Muscat Cannelli and blue cheese is my magic. I love that. Well, we hope that you all enjoyed Chef's Tips. Do check the blog and the recipe page. There's lots of delicious things. Invite your friends over in October and get warmed up, and don't stop inviting them over. Keep inviting people over and enjoying, drinking up your cellar and making delicious recipes. We do have the holiday reception for members on December 8th. If you're in Napa Valley, we'd love to have you. In November, as always, we are not going to just celebrate Giving Tuesday. We're going to celebrate Giving November all month long. So look for the charities we'll be supporting this year with a very generous donation on certain wines. We'll be giving over 30% of the proceeds from those wines to the charities. And so we're excited about that to help our neighbors this time of year. We also, you can always drop off your canned foods at St. Supery. We are the drop-off point throughout the year for Can Do to our local food bank. We drop off every 2 months, and we're happy to give you a green bag to bring next time you come. Fill it up when you're grocery shopping. And then do check out the recipes and add your comments. You can add your comments and rank the recipes. Your friends want to hear from you as to what you enjoyed. And we appreciate you all coming and being with us today. It was nice to see everyone, and we wish you a very happy holiday season. Do call us if we can help you in any way, and check out the website for more great recipes as they come. And we look forward to seeing you in the beautiful Napa Valley very soon. Thanks, everybody. Have a great season.